at the movies with Tim Sika. Welcome aboard, my friend.
Thank you, Kim. I love your crazy coyote.
I know, isn't that wild? You imagine
Yeah.
looking up and there's a coyote on your roof?
Yeah. No, I don't know what I would do if that
No, I'm
happened.
telling you.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you've got some good movies for us this week. You are starting with this movie called Thunderbolts.
Thunderbolts. Yes, another Marvel movie. Surprise, surprise, as Gomer Pyle would say, right? Okay. It's the 36th Marvel movie in the MCU. I mean, really, that's it's hard for me to wrap my head around that anyway. And despite dressing it up with new or secondary characters, come on, let's not kid ourselves. It's really just more of the same, right?
Mhm.
Only this time the dressing comes in the form of these secondary characters or like superhero supervillains. Okay, so what the Thunderbolts is, it's not Thunderbolts are. They're a superhero team of reformed supervillains, I guess. Yeah, that's it. Yeah, and they're basically the new Avengers. Okay, in the persons of a bunch of very very talented actors. And there's lots of plot as per usual here, but basically all you got to know with this movie is that it's the Thunderbolts versus Julia Louis Dreyfus, who plays this corrupt director of the CIA. And for my money, she was the most enjoyable aspect of this movie. She was very funny, and she was obviously enjoying herself playing this really nasty CIA head and or politician. And there's really not much more to say about this movie. I know Michael Snyder and I diverge
Yeah, but
on
he's
our
a fan
individual.
of the Marvel movies. I mean, that's his thing.
Yeah, yeah. His liking of and the points he makes about the movie are well taken. He seemed vastly entertained by it. I was
Mhm.
frankly vastly bored by
Oh,
it. I take a lot of notes at films, Kim. I wrote nothing down in my notepad because there really wasn't anything left to say. As the old saying goes, there's never any accounting for personal taste, right? Yeah,
mhm.
Michael loves the Marvel movies. Superhero fatigue is my middle name. But if it's your jam, have at it. We critics have no effect on these Marvel movies anyway. They've a built-in fan base. They've got a loyal audience who are always going to go see them regardless of what the critics say. So for
Mhm.
me, this expensive but kind of ragtag, cheap-looking, samey MCU entry just didn't move the needle as far as my superhero movie fatigue goes. And if you ask this critic what to say about Thunderbolts, he says to just skip it.
Skip it. It's a skip it. Oh
It's a
no.
skip it. Yeah.
Oh, wildly, vastly different reviews from you and Snyder on Thunderbolts.
I
Wow.
know, and I just before we went on the air, I just for the hell of it, I looked up the critical consensus, and the critics are going nuts over this movie.
Okay.
I don't get it, and even yeah, you know what it is yeah, they're fans, and they enjoyed these movies, they like these movies, so they're kind of like blind to really like analyzing them or critiquing
Mhm.
them. Maybe I overthink these things. I don't know. But I just basically did not find it entertaining. And I've seen it dozens of times already. It's the same movie, just dressed up differently. Anyway.
What did you think about this one? It's called The Surfer.
Yeah. Well, yeah, speaking of entertaining, yeah, this next movie, The Surfer, was vastly entertaining from my perspective. I'm not sure if it was all that great a movie. In fact, much of it was out and out ridiculous and stupid, but maybe as camp with some sort of like Hemingway-esque message about the meaning of a certain kind of masculinity, it can be enjoyed. That's
Mhm.
kind of how I saw it, but I don't know if that was the intention. But anyway, the premise of The Surfer is that Nicolas Cage, who's an actor, who works endlessly and tirelessly, I'll give him that. Cage plays this man who is in the process of buying a home in the Australian town where he was raised. And before the deal is sealed, he, along with his teenage son, decide that they want to surf this adjacent idyllic Australian beach. But they're told by the locals when they show up that they are not wanted, that this beach is only meant for them, the locals, that he and his son have no business being there, and they better leave before they get hurt. So, concerned for the welfare of his son, Cage sends his son back to his mother, but decides he's not going anywhere until he hears from his broker about the closing of the house sale. And so he stays on the beach in his Lexus, but is slowly, gradually tormented and bullied by these locals until he, Cage, known only as the surfer in the movie, we never really know his name. We never find out his name. He's just known as the surfer. He stays there until he goes nuts, till he goes crazy. And this is yet another one of those movies where Nicolas Cage plays a character who goes nuts, who goes mad, a Nicolas Cage specialty. I don't know how many movies he's played a similar type of character, but anyway, I found this movie to be perversely fun. I don't know if that's what its intention was, because it almost plays like a parody of a serious drama. The drama at times plays kind of over the top. It's kind of cheesy. It reminded me of this infamous movie from 1968 called The Swimmer with Burt Lancaster, who will be mentioned again later in the show. But it's sort of, that movie had this uniformly bad acting and direction to the point where it seemed like practically like they were doing that deliberately. I don't know what that, but that's The Surfer. There's several unexplained plot bits that lack narrative logic in this, and half an hour in, I'm going, why doesn't this guy just leave the beach? There's no apparent reason for him to stay there. He's just inviting trouble and is only making his situation worse. Maybe that was the point of the film. But the symbolism of it all was heavy-handed, and the film's narrative resolution was ridiculous, is the only word that comes to mind. So what am I saying here? Is it worth seeing? I would say overall, yes. But I would say don't take any of it seriously. For me, I found it unintentionally hilarious. Again, I always fall back.
Was it meant to be hilarious? Because if it's not meant to be hilarious, then I don't know if it's a good movie or not.
I don't think it was, because I mean, it dealt with serious issues. I mean, I think it was about toxic masculinity, but it just got I'm just saying, if you had left like an hour ago, none of this would have happened. You didn't even need to stay there. And then there were all these things that kept occurring, like, well, wait a minute. Okay, he knows at some point that his cell phone's going to die, but he gives it to this guy that's running this like food stand, but he's like, it should only take maybe an hour or two for it to charge, but he doesn't ask for it till the following day. And I'm going, why did he wait so long to ask for it, knowing that the guy who was running the stand was one of the locals and wasn't going to give it back to him anyway? I mean, it drove me nuts, but I kind of went with it as this weird parody. And I found it really entertaining, I think unintentionally. I don't think it was meant to be a comedy, but I thought it was a joke.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Did Nicolas Cage try to do an Australian accent?
No, that was the other thing that was weird. He was the only one, well, and his son. I mean, they were the only one and he hailed from the area. So you would have thought he might have at least had a trace of one, but no, he was doing his Nicolas Cage thing.
Okay.
Anyway,
so
it was a hoot.
It's a hoot. Because it's kind of funny?
I would say yes.
Okay. All right. Tim recommends it. Tim's next movie is called The Dark Money Game.
Oh yeah.
This is kind of a streaming one too, huh?
Yeah, it's streaming. It's on Max, HBO Max. It's a 2-part documentary directed by one of the great documentarians of our time, I think probably of all time, Alex Gibney. And it's a hard-hitting look at a really complicated subject, campaign finance reform, and the enormous political influence of special interest groups since the Supreme Court Citizens United decision. So it's one nearly 4-hour documentary. It's divided into 2-hour halves. The first one is titled Ohio Confidential, which deals in detail with, I'm from Ohio. I never even heard about this, but it dealt with the largest political bribery case in Ohio history, where the Republican Ohio Speaker of the House, his name was Larry Householder, was indicted and sent to prison for, this was just recently, for 20 years for racketeering, and who was responsible for the exchange of something like $61 million in political bribes.
Wow.
Okay, and the second installment is titled The Wealth. It's the Dark Money Game, the second installment is called The Wealth of the Wicked, and it details how big money and religion colluded to bring about the overturning of Roe v. Wade. It's all very unsettling and infuriating, what we see in this film. And although the movie is remarkably objective, it does ultimately come down on the side of, well, in my opinion, practically irrefutable position that U.S. politics have become this entangled culture of corruption, and that we've made, courtesy of the courts, specifically the SCOTUS, political bribery, legal in the United States. Yeah. That fringe groups, since the 2010 Citizens United ruling, they can bundle billions of dollars into secret slush funds or super PACs to frustrate popular rule and what the people actually want, the majority of the population wants, and that basically now the political fix is in, because corruption of the Supreme Court, specifically in the persons of Clarence Thomas and Samuel Alito, can now be regulated by the Supreme Court. And that the court has basically redefined corruption to help the super wealthy and basically ignore the rest of us. I mean, to me, that was my takeaway from the film. The movie was inspired by this book, which I just ordered because I found the movie so fascinating. This book called Dark Money by Jane Mayer, who also appears in the film to explain how dark money or hidden money is now de rigueur in both Republican and Democratic politics. Even the system is so corrupt that in order to actually win, you have no other choice but to accept this money, because it's so entrenched in the way campaigns are run. It's kind of depressing, but it's an excellent must-see movie, and it's now streaming on HBO Max. Yeah,
this is a picture of Larry Householder.
He
was the former Speaker of the Ohio House.
Right.
He was an Ohio representative from the 72nd District, a two-time Speaker of the Ohio House of Representatives, convicted of racketeering in a bribery scandal involving First Energy, expelled from the House in 2021, and sentenced to 20 years in prison.
Right.
In 2023. That's wild.
Exactly. And I guess he's now appealing that decision based on Citizens United, which I think is just one of the worst decisions that the court, whatever. It's kind of, to me, it's just that they're rationalizing their corruption. They're just looking the other way. Anyway, that's another subject, talking politics. But the movie is excellent. It's extremely well told. It's a lot to take in, and it's not comfortable. It's a difficult movie to watch because there's so much information, but it's really well done. And Alex Gibney is one of my favorite documentarians. He's extremely prolific. He won the Oscar for a movie called Taxi to the Dark Side a few years ago. He made a movie about Enron and the corruption. He's just a great journalist, and he's a great filmmaker. And so when I saw his name attached, I thought, well, I definitely have to check this out. I think it dropped on Netflix about a week ago. It's so weird, Kim, because I watched it in pieces because there was a lot to take in. It's so interesting. When a lot of times when you go on a streaming service, they highlight movies which you should watch. Yeah. It was difficult to find this movie, even when I went, into the search thing and had to do it letter by letter, because it wouldn't come up. And then when I went back to rewatch it, I had to do the whole thing again. So it made me, I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but it made me think, why is it so hard to find this movie? Why don't they highlight it? Of course, they're not going to do that. But anyway.
It frustrates me because this is on HBO Max or Max. It frustrates me to even watch this, although I know the information is important. I know it's not
Yeah.
something we should look away from, but it feels like there's nothing we can do about it. That this is just our system and how it works, and it's insurmountable. Like, how do we root out this whole
Yeah.
dark side of money and politics? So interesting that that this is such a good documentary, but it's also one that kind of weighs heavy on me because I don't know what can be done, you know?
Yeah, no, and yeah, if I had, I mean, I don't think anybody knows what to do, and
Mhm.
both parties are sort of a party to it.
Yep.
Uh, yeah, it's in one sense you could say, well, it's it's fighting fire with fire, but in another sense, it's like it's all corrupt. No, it was amazing that the FBI was able to make a case against Larry Householder because the way this money is situated in these private groups where you don't have to disclose where who the money is from. It was amazing that they untangled that, but the movie shows a lot of it was just by chance,
Yeah.
by the people that they happened to be talking to, who happened to be talking to other people who spilled beans that they didn't think they were spilling. It's a fascinating story, but it's sort of like I don't know if that's ever going to happen again.
Mhm.
If there can be easily be an indictment against these politicians because the money is literally impossible to find.
And then it's also this thing of, okay, you can't win without the money,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
But then also it's, do you get into politics to help people, to serve
Well,
the public good, or do you get into politics to enrich yourself? And when you win a political race, when you're seated in office, is it like, the minute you win, it's like, oh, thank God, it's easy street. I'm going to reach in and grab some of this cash.
yeah. Well, in the case of Larry Householder, according to the film, he he was strategic. He sought out the power, and in order to get the power, he had to do a quid pro quo.
Sure.
So he was, but he was a very charming politician. It's so interesting. In my mind, I'm watching this, and they had the Republican convention, presidential convention, I think for Trump both times in Cleveland. It's amazing what they were doing in Ohio in 2010 was exactly the blueprint that Trump is using while he's president: lying, obfuscating, confusing. It just, yeah. I mean, they're bedfellows, Ohio and the Trump administration. Anyway,
All right.
yeah,
Well, moving
yeah.
on from politics. We don't usually talk politics on the
I
show, but
know, I know, I know, I
it's
know.
because it's a movie and it's you. I'll allow it. We have this one, Henry Johnson.
Yeah, I just happened upon this movie the other day. It's probably my favorite movie of the week. It's written and
Oh,
directed by David Mamet, who's a Pulitzer Prize winning writer and playwright and author,
mhm.
based on his own play. Boy, is this ever the very definition of a lean and mean movie, this film,
Oh,
Henry Johnson. And it's about, well, the settings, it's based on a play. So the settings are an office room, a prison cell, and a prison library. And it's about this man who extends, how can I say this without giving anything away? Okay, so it's about this man who extends an act of compassion to a college friend of his who went to prison. And that act of compassion totally upends this guy's life, the guy who gave it, and ultimately results in his tragic end. So the movie explores the nature of power and justice and the price of human naivete, and
mhm.
maybe how acts of human compassion may not necessarily result in desired outcomes or in outcomes that we think are going to result because of our compassion. And it's classic David Mamet, very raw, with crackling dialogue and presented arguments that totally provoke. I mean, I'm watching this, I'm going, I mean, it was really riling me up, but in a good way. I'm not sure what the message of the movie is. I think that comes later after you do studied consideration of Mamet's truths, and there are truths here. They're uncomfortable truths to have to confront, but they're truths nonetheless. So yeah, it's an explosive drama, very entertaining picture. All four performances, there's four characters, but there's all four performances are great, with a standout one from Shia LaBeouf as this prison inmate who schools the Henry Johnson character of the title, played by Evan Jonigkeit. Everybody's superb. It's great drama. And, you know, as I was watching the movie, the thought crossed my mind, Kim, that just maybe David Mamet might be overthinking some of the issues that the film explores. But bottom line is that, for me, with this movie, Mamet's showing that he's still got it. I mean, he's a great writer and he's a skilled dramatist. I would see anything he put forward on stage or on screen, and this movie's no exception. It's excellent. It's my favorite movie of the week. Certainly the most provocative. I love movies that entertain, that are, you know, that are hypercharged in terms of acting, but that also have something to say. And that's Henry Johnson. It's this little gem. It's hardly getting any publicity at all. I'm reviewing it a little bit ahead of time. It opens in just select theaters next week, and then on VOD, I think on May 9th. But I really, I'm excited about it, and I would love for people to check it out.
It reminds me of those stories you hear where someone does something nice for someone, they're a good Samaritan, and then, you know, they stop to help someone and then they get hit by a car on the side of the road. One of these stories where, you know, your heart's in the right place and you try to do something nice and then all of a sudden it backfires.
Yeah, well, that's kind of, that's a lot of what this movie is about. Yeah.
I have to tell you that my daughter in her English class at school had to watch, they read The Color Purple, and then they had to watch the movie from the 1980s. And
rough.
then her most recent assignment is that she had to write a movie review. And she said to me in the car on the way home, she goes, I guess we need to call Tim Sika. I said, no, I don't think we're not going to bother Tim Sika. It was close. You were this close to being called. I'm like, Tim Sika is not going to write your movie review for you.
Well, no, you could have called and I could have maybe given advice. So did she write the review?
Yeah, she did. She did not like the movie as well as good as she liked the book.
Interesting.
A lot better. Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah, because the book is, I mean, I thought the movie was brutal, but the book is even more brutal. Interesting that she liked the book more.
Yeah. She did.
It's a hard novel, and it's a hard movie. I think I've only seen it once, but I feel like I've seen it 20 times because it's so etched in my mind. Yeah.
Yeah, but it made me think about it because you were talking about the movie Henry Johnson, how you kind of feel like you're still thinking about it after the fact. Yeah. That's The Color Purple for me is even this many years later, there's so much to think about, and you know how society and abuse and the way you're treated can just weigh you down in life.
And it's just so sad, that movie. Oh my God. The ending. Wasn't the ending great where she's reunited with her sister? Oh, so beautiful. Anyway, I love it. But it's rough. It's like that movie to me is like Sophie's Choice. It's just a hard one to watch, but awfully good. Really, really good.
Did you know that? You probably knew this. I didn't. I had read it, that because the conversation made me kind of want to refresh myself on the movie. But Steven Spielberg, who I believe directed that movie, had a lot of criticism because, and even in the early 80s, because this is a movie about the African-American female experience, right?
Yeah.
And here he is, he's a white guy. He's definitely, you know, maybe
a white Jewish guy.
Not really into the African-American experience. And so he took a lot of heat for that, even way back then.
Yeah, he did. I think some of it was unfair. I mean, even the cast. I mean, Whoopi Goldberg was on record as saying, you know, what is everybody's problem? Right. You know, this is he's sensitive to that. He asks the right questions. I mean, it brings up that question like, well, you know, should only people that have had a certain experience direct them? It depends. You know, it depends. And I think it's one of Spielberg's better films, personally.
11 Academy Award nominations and not one win.
And he didn't get a nomination for director, which is very, very odd. I don't know how that shook out or why that happened, but I blame the system. The system sometimes
Yeah.
will oust people, according to the round of voting. I remember once in one of the groups I was in, we were voting for films, and we started out by there was one film that kept getting the most votes. It was what was it called? Up in the Air. It was George Clooney. Anyway, it was and people were very excited about it, but by the time we had gone through several rounds, by the third round or the fourth round, nobody was even talking about the movie that, if we weren't going to go any further in discussion, would have probably won all of our awards. So it's sometimes, people talk about, well, I'm not going to go on about snubs. I think that's a misinterpretation of when somebody's name is omitted from awards. I think snub implies like a direct, like, I'm not going to vote for these people because whatever. Sometimes it just happens because of the nature of the system that's set up, the rounds and rounds of voting that critics have to go through. Anyway, yeah.
Another point on The Color Purple is, it's hard
Mm.
for me to believe that was Oprah's very first movie acting performance.
I know
what a debut performance that
I
was.
know. Well, yeah, it was hers and Whoopi Goldberg's, their
Wow.
debut film performances, and they were superb.
Yeah.
Both of them. I know.
Really
yeah. Totally agree. Yep.
Before we get to the movie recommendation of the week, Noah Fidian asks this question. He says, must a movie have a message?
I would say no, not necessarily. And I think it was one of the moguls said famously, like, well, if you want to, send a message, call Western Union. I think, it gets back to like, well, why do people go to see movies, right? Yeah. If they just go to be entertained, then they'll be, they'll see the movies that entertain. But I do think movies can entertain and say something, important. Sometimes it's subtle. I think the ones that are subtle about it, that don't hit you over the head with a quote unquote message, are the best ones, but yeah, no, I would say the simple answer to that question is no. I don't think any movie needs to have a message. No.
All right, it's time for us to hit it. It is Tim Sika's classic movie rec of the week. There it is.
Come back, little Sheba. What is it with all these 50s movies I'm recommending lately? Anyway, I don't know. I was wondering about that when I picked this movie. Yeah, Burt Lancaster stars in this. He's in the poster there, and introducing to movie screens actress Shirley Booth. This is one of the saddest movies ever made, and a movie that features probably one of the greatest female performances ever to be put on film. It's Come Back, Little Sheba. It's based on the William Inge play. Burt Lancaster plays this alcoholic chiropractor who, when the story opens, has been sober for a year. Shirley Booth plays his frumpy, loquacious wife who lives for the day when her lost dog, little Sheba, will return home. She's constantly, wondering when the dog's going to come back. She disappeared one day. She has dreams about this dog. Booth makes her film debut here, having previously played the role to great critical acclaim on Broadway. Anyway, and the couple's life is just one of quiet desperation until one day they rent a room to this young female college student in the picture there, played by Terry Moore, which sets off the drama that's to follow. We learned that the couple had to get married. Shirley Booth and Lancaster character, Doc and Lola Delaney. We learned that the couple had to get married because the Booth character was pregnant, that the baby died, and that this, of course, overshadows their relationship. And anyway, I watched this movie again. I hadn't seen it in years, just last week, and it still holds up. It's extremely powerful. It's deeply emotional, with Shirley Booth's performance serving as the centerpiece of the drama. It's really one of the top 10 female film performances of all time, in my opinion. It's right up there with Vivian Lee's in A Streetcar Named Desire or Kim Stanley's in Seance on a Wet Afternoon. It's absolutely shattering how this incredibly skilled actress who became famous for playing Hazel, the maid on TV, of all things, negotiates the emotional arc of this character, Lola Delaney. She's an obviously very broken woman who on the exterior presents one that's really, who's just the opposite, light, cheery, optimistic, maybe delusionally happy, but to anyone not really looking, she's very, very sad, very lonely, very broken. It's a performance to be studied, I think, by all wannabe actors and actresses. Shirley Booth's is it's her film debut. She won the Oscar that year in 1952 for Best Actress. It's one of the really standout and few times that Oscar got it exactly right. She's so moving. Watching her, it just tears at your heart. Anyway, come back, Little Sheba. It is sad, but it does have a realistically upbeat ending. So just because it's sad shouldn't be a reason for anybody who has never seen it to not check it out.
Why don't I know Shirley Booth's name? Did she not go on to great fame and a long movie career after such a great performance?
She was basically a theater actress, and she never gave up the stage. She appeared in a few movies, but she never equaled this. I think to her acting, Denzel Washington said this once, just recently in an interview. He was asked about film acting, and he says, "No, I'm a stage actor who does film." Because the one school of thought is like, well, when you're acting on stage, you are in control of everything. You modulate your performance according to the audience reaction, blah, blah, blah. In a film, you give your all too, but then it's handed over to the director who will, edit it in a certain way, maybe add some music here and there for an effect that it's the director's medium. So I think Booth felt, not in a snobby way, because she took on this role of Hazel and her friends told her, the role's beneath you, don't do it. But and this was when television was considered, a step from the gutter. Like, you never want to do TV, maybe movies, but if you're a real actor, you want to stick to the stage. She was in this series. It was a hit for 5 seasons. And she said it provided her with retirement money because, you make a lot of money in television, especially if the show that you're appearing in is a hit. You make lots and lots of money. So, I don't know. I went off on all kinds of tangents. I don't know if I answered your question, but
you did. It's
you were saying, you were saying, she.
Why don't I know her name? Mm-hmm.
And I'm hard pressed to say what I know. She was in. The musical Hello, Dolly was based on a Thornton Wilder play called The Matchmaker, and they filmed The Matchmaker, and Shirley Booth starred as Dolly Levi in that movie. But that's the only movie I can think of off the top of my head where I remember seeing her. I'm sure she's done other stuff. I just can't think of it.
Hello, Dolly makes me think of, what's her name? Carol
Channing.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, Carol Channing. Everybody's played that role. Every actress worth their salt has played that role. Yeah, and Booth is good in the non-musical version of the film. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Interesting. All right. So this is our movie rec of the week, classic movie rec, and I'm taken to task by the amazing Chris from Menlo Park, who says it took me a minute. It's the movie recommendation, not the movie rec. I'm trying to be cool, I guess. I don't know.
Oh yeah, rec is cool, Kim. Come on.
There you go. It's the movie rec of the week. Classic movie.
Oh rec. Yeah, the movie rec, like WRECK rec.
Apparently, I'm like the young kids that can't be bothered to say the whole word. So there
right.
Tim, you are amazing, and thank you for all of these wonderful recommendations. Let's have at it again to do a quick recap. You started with Thunderbolts, and you said you thought this was boring. You said we've seen this one before. That Julia Louis-Dreyfus was the most enjoyable part of it, but otherwise, you just skip this one. That's Thunderbolts.
Yeah.
It's a skip it from Tim. The Surfer, you said it's campy, kind of, and fun. It's over the top and ridiculous. and unintentionally hilarious, but because it was so funny and amusing to you, you recommend The Surfer. I don't know if they would like that review or not. The Dark Money Game. This is a 2-part documentary that is streaming on Max. And you said it is excellent. It is difficult to watch, but you called it well done. And you highly recommend The Dark Money Game on Max. It is streaming. Your favorite movie of the week is this one that isn't getting a lot of publicity, but you say, boy, is it a gem and it's worth it. It's called Henry Johnson. And you say this movie is lean and mean. It is superb, excellent, and provocative, you called it. You say it's in select theaters and then it's coming out on video on demand. But Henry Johnson is, yes, highly recommended from Tim Sika. And the sorry, Chris, classic movie wreck of the week is Comeback Little Sheba from 1952. You said that this is one of the saddest movies ever made. Also, one of the best female performances in film from Shirley Booth. And you are recommending the classic movie Comeback Little Sheba. And there you have it.
Yeah, and it's streaming on Amazon Prime if people want to check it out. Yeah.
Perfect. Tim Sika's done it again. Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
If you say so, Kim. Thank you very much.
With Tim Sika. Thank you, Tim. Have a great rest of your weekend.
All right, you too. Talk to you next week, Kim. Bye-bye.
Bye.